Menstrual cycles, the rules to live by with your menstrual cycle, and how to break those rules in our modern world. That's what we're talking about on this episode of Spirit of an Athlete. I'm your host, Amanda Smith, creator of the Gutsy Chick Quiz and the Heal to Grow process. Check both of those out at bodywhisperhealing.com. Yeah, guys, you may or may not want to stick around for this episode. But if you have women in your life, stick around. You're going to learn something about what they're experiencing and how to help them. So, here's what I've learned in my lifetime about the menstrual cycle. It applies to all women, whether you have a cycle or not. I'll explain more about that in a little bit. If you follow the rules, everything goes better. Everything moves with ease and flow. And it's not always easy to follow those rules in a modern world. And I'm going to show you how to break those rules, but still find the ease and flow. Those of us who follow our cycles, track them and listen to them, and are able to move with them tend to have more pleasure in their lives. Who doesn't want more pleasure? Menstrual cycles can be challenging to track, but please track them. This one I cannot stress enough. Track your cycles. The way you track your cycle is you get a piece of paper and a pen and you write down the date and you put down, I am bleeding. And then you mark down how many days you're bleeding. That's the old school way of doing it. You can use a calendar, and that way you can actually see and count out how many days. But you need to know how many days or what the length of each part of the cycle is. Or you can just get an app. I use the app called Period Diary. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can go grab it. There are probably 100 different apps to use at this point to track your period cycle. The beautiful thing about these apps is you can look at it and immediately know, I am 3 days out from my period. I am 2 days out from my ovulation. I'm in the follicular phase. I'm in the luteal phase. But most women don't even know what those two phases mean. And in this episode, I am covering that. So stick around. All right. The complete menstrual cycle broken down by how many days? Here we go. Menstruation is between 2 and 7 days long, according to the Mayo Clinic. The follicular phase comes next. It's actually at the same time as menstruation. It's 13 to 14 days long. Ovulation, 1 day. In fact, it's a couple of hours. If you use certain tools to find out if you're trying to get pregnant, tracking ovulation is very important to you. There are certain tools that can break it down to the day. They can break it down to the hour. Luteal phase. This is just after ovulation, and it's 14 days long. Again, these are all perfect world numbers, so keep that in mind. I am someone who believes in having a tolerance band on everything. That was something that I taught in aerospace. And I love that menstruation is 2 to 7 days. We have a tolerance band there. Follicular, 13 to 14 days. We have a tolerance band. It's a little tighter. Ovulation, 1 day. It's actually a couple of hours. The luteal phase, 14 days, the end. Now, most women's cycle is between 27 to 29 days. But the sweet spot is 28 days, and it lines you up with the moon's cycle. The moon cycle is 28 days. So if you don't have a menstrual cycle, what you're timing yourself with is the moons. The full moon, ideally, perfect world, is when we're bleeding. And the new moon is when we're ovulating. And the reason that we time it up like that is because the full moon is when we release and let go. The new moon is when we call in. And the whole point of ovulation is to make a baby. So we're calling in, making a baby. Now, who in the world here actually lives to this perfect world? I know probably 5 times in my life, I managed to sync up with those moons perfectly. 5 times. I've been having a period for 32 years. That's not very often. Okay. Here are the rules. And the rules include how we feed ourselves during our cycle, how our life should look during this time of in our cycle, and workouts. If you're an athlete or aspire to be an athlete or just like to work out, tune in. Pay attention. Perfect world. During menstruation, we are chilling, relaxing, and doing restorative practices. This is not the time to be super duper active. This is a time to rest and relax because your body is already working very hard. It's bleeding for 2 to 7 days. That's a lot of work. And our hormones are going through a big flux. We've gone to zero on some of our hormones, and some of our hormones are skyrocketing, depending on how our body handles this portion of our cycle. Again, perfect world. Most of our hormones have dropped out, and they're just starting to climb as we get to the end of our cycle, our menstrual cycle. Foods to eat during this time would be high in iron, vitamin C, so that the iron can get absorbed, B vitamins, folate specifically, and anti inflammatory foods. We are inflamed during this time, and it would be a great idea to eat anti inflammatory foods like ginger and cinnamon. Put them in tea and drink them. And then, my favorite food to eat during this time, dark chocolate with orange peels. You get the vitamin C from the orange peels, and the dark chocolate is low in sugar and gives me exactly what I need during this time of the month. The follicular phase. This overlaps with menstruation. Remember that. So, the first part of the follicular phase is menstruation. After menstruation, this is the time that we want to start ramping up our workouts, ramping up our activity. We're starting to go into higher intensity life. This doesn't mean we're maxing out. We're maxing out our capabilities. It just means we're ramping up. The foods to eat during this time are going to be really whatever you want. This is kind of the free for all time, in my humble opinion. But pay attention specifically to sugar and how your body is responding to sugar. We are more sensitive to insulin at this time. So pay attention to how your body is responding. Ovulation. This is when we want to crush our goals. This is when you hope that you've got big meetings, big competitions, hard practices. Life is really throwing it at you because you've got more energy and more drive during this one day than any other time during the month. Perfect world. Here's the caveat. During ovulation, your body has more laxity in its tendons and ligaments. It means they're like wobbly and loose. You're stronger than any other time, which doesn't play well with loose joints. And we have poor neuromuscular control. Your brain doesn't talk to your muscles very well. This is all from a study that is in PubMed out of Spain. Now, in Spain, they don't have PMS, that much, but they do have issues with their athletes getting injured during ovulation and their luteal phase. There is a little bit of this that leaks into the luteal phase. Since ovulation is only one day and it's not like our body just bounces back right and quick. Okay. You have more energy and drive because peak estrogen has released testosterone. Mm, yeah. This is when I would want to perfectly schedule my powerlifting meets, cuz who doesn't want to hit a PR? Okay. You're also less sensitive to pain. And it's a more inflammatory time for some women. Eating fish can help reduce that inflammation. For vegans and vegetarians, you're looking at nuts and seeds to help with inflammation. So if you tend to have a little more pain during this time, or you notice like I had my period and halfway through the month I got pain again, kind of like PMS, you're ovulating. The luteal phase. This is for strength training and keeping your brain calm because cortisol is high during this time. I plan my workouts for sanity during the luteal phase. I am going for training my brain and not my body as much. I'm not pushing it very hard. And that's my recommendation to you in the luteal phase. Don't push it unless you can. And this is where you'll ebb and flow your workouts with how you're feeling. In this phase, you're less sensitive to the effects of insulin. So, not a horrible time to eat sugary things, but food should also be high in fiber, slow digesting carbs, and again, that dark chocolate with orange peels because PMS at the end of the luteal phase. Some people do have premenstrual syndrome. And in the United States, it's more prominent because we do have a more inflammatory diet. So, this is why I keep stressing in each of these phases to pay attention. If you're in an inflammatory phase of your cycle, eat anti inflammatory foods. Okay. So, that's the perfect world. Here's the real world. During menstruation, get as much rest as you can put into your schedule. The more rest, the better. The more recovery, the better. Sleep harder during your menstrual cycle. That might be easy because you're exhausted, or it might be hard because you're exhausted, but your brain's like, I got so much to do. And we tend to have more of a spiraling brain during menstruation. Our brain is much more active. Check out Yoga Nidra. We talked about this in episode 46 with Renee Yumtub. Phenomenal episode to learn more about what Yoga Nidra is and how you can get deeper sleep and basically cheat on sleep with that practice. Also, Epsom salt baths, helping with the inflammatory response during menstruation. Epsom salt baths are a game changer. And then when it comes to your food, because you need more rest, cook your meals before, preload the work before you end up with PMS at the end of your luteal phase or in your menstrual cycle. That way you can rest more and the food's already ready for you and you don't have to think about what am I going to have for dinner tonight when you're already bleeding. The follicular phase, man, I'm going to screw that word up more, I bet. If you know you've got a big meeting, hard practice, competition, plan some recovery workouts into your week. This is how you're going to help yourself through this phase. More recovery workouts during this time. If you don't know what a recovery workout is, check out episode 3 with Barrett Smith. We cover some ways to do recovery workouts, other things to do that aren't pushing yourself at your sport or pushing yourself in the boardroom. Ovulation. This is when you pray you've got a big meet, like I was talking about before. Try to schedule getting PRs, knocking out big projects, knocking out big meetings, and give yourself a couple of days window around this ovulation. Going into ovulation, your energy is spiking. At ovulation, your energy is the highest. And then after ovulation, it's starting to trickle off. So you've got a window of opportunity around your ovulation day to really amp up your energy and use it to create these PRs and go gung ho on whatever you need to do. Don't think it's just one day. Luteal phase, treat it the same as the follicular phase. You are adding in more recovery workouts during this time. So, understanding the rules and now knowing how can I actually live my life and then break those rules, but still living in this flow. Hopefully, that's what this has shown you. When it comes to food, you have more control over this than you do scheduling for practices and games and competitions and big meetings and big projects at work. So, really harness the food piece of what I've shared here. Help yourself through food. It it's a game changer, truly. And I do plan on having Amy Gallo on to talk about insulin and how our bodies as athletes respond to insulin. And we will cover the female cycle in this. The more you know, the better you can treat yourself. That's what this episode is really all about. Understanding your cycle also helps us better communicate with our team. Communication is key in any relationship. So you're tired, let your team know. You really just want to hunker down in a hole, let your team know. If you're moody, let your team know. They'll be there to support you. And if there are women on your team, they get it. They understand where you're at in life and they'll help you out because they're going to be there eventually too. The monthly cycles are really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to understanding your body. I have been in a deep study with Melissa Seaman and Maria Urasperu for the last 5 years. Understanding your life cycle, your yearly cycle, and then what I've just explained here, your monthly cycle, is a study I have gained profound insight into how to treat this body and really land in that pleasure space, that ease and flow of life space. And that truly is my goal for all of you. That is my hope for all of you. So I'm mentioning Melissa and Maria, and I'm going to drop their links into the show notes because, shameless plug, Melissa is my business coach. She helped me create the Gutsy Chick quiz, and it was a game changer for how my business brought in leads and how quickly those leads convert to clients. If you are a female business owner who needs a better lead gen tool, Melissa is hosting a free quiz creation masterclass on February 5th. The link for that, it's an affiliate link, is in the show notes. Go check out her free masterclass on quiz creation. It's a game changer. You go from 3 to 5% opt in to 30 to 50% opt in. Those are phenomenal numbers, you guys. Okay. This deep study that I'm in with Melissa and Maria, it's changed my life. It's made me have a better way of handling how I flow through my day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, and my entire life. If that is something that you feel you could benefit from, I know everyone could benefit from understanding those things. Please check out Melissa Seaman's website, Channel Your Genius. She has a podcast. Her business academy, her wisdom academy. She's phenomenal. Maria Urasperu is my Apache Shima mama. She will take you deep into the indigenous practices of these life cycles, initiations that we've stripped out of our day-to-day and our life cycle. Those kinds of initiations are what keep us grounded and help us from a mental place to navigate this life. Please go check out their work. If you are a person who is struggling with their menstrual cycle, please check out my initial body scan. It's $97. We sit down for 20 minutes and I put you on the path to healing. Right there in that 20 minutes, we will go over how it looks to heal your hormones. And trust me, it's more than hormones that need to be healed. When our hormones are showing us things are out of whack. Some of the symptoms that I've helped people work through are missed periods, acne, mood swings, depression due to a faulty menstrual cycle. The list goes on. If you're struggling, please reach out. I have helped several women come back to balance with their hormone cycles, with their menstrual cycles, with the cycle that they should be living to when they've become menopausal or postmenopausal, their wise woman years. Let's get you on the road to healing. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for listening to Spirit of an Athlete. If you want to find out what part of your mindset might be holding you back from healing, but has helped you as an athlete, go check out the Gutsy Chick Quiz at gutsychickquiz.com. And if you would like more of me, you can go to bodywhisperhealing.com and read my blog, check out other podcast episodes, find out how I work with my clients, and much more. Thanks for listening to this episode.